And non-registration of FIRs is one of the major causes which everyone spoke about. So the first thing is to initiate the process, registration and prompt investigation. And that's why, you see, that's the first right. And most often we hear, the woman is raped once, she goes to complain,
It's the second.
and it is a continuing rape, if you ask
No,
me.
it has happened also that the woman who has been raped goes to a police
That's
station
it.
and is sexually
Yes,
subjected
abused.
to another violation.
Correct. And then when the trial takes place, then the vulgar manner in which the witness is subjected to examination and cross-examination. So it is that misery living continuously.
But have you been too tough? And now let me tell me if I'm pushing the point too hard. But have you been too tough when you said your panel also introduces a concept of the offence of breach of command?
Yes.
Responsibility, making a senior officer of the security forces liable to 7 to 10 years if a subordinate commits rape. Justice Verma, is this an extreme measure?
No, it may be an extreme measure, but I'll tell you why. It is not that every time a rape is committed by a subordinate, the commanding officer would be responsible. It is only when he had the knowledge or the circumstance indicate that he had a prior knowledge of some kind which required him to discharge his duty to take action to prevent the commission of rape. Now, because in that sense, if you look at it this way, he becomes an accomplice before the act itself. You see, because then he facilitates the commission of that thing. So he has a duty. After all, he is the person controlling the subordinates. If we haven't said that if a person commits rape and the commanding officer had no knowledge, or so that there was nothing that he could have done.
But if he's aware of it.
But if he had knowledge, or the circumstances indicate that he could have had knowledge, because then that's the case of inaction. Now it is only to ensure that they perform this duty which they are bound to, and the women who came from the border areas, you see, I mean, the stories they narrated goes to show that there's total apathy, women being treated as chattels. Yeah. So if the constitutional basis on which our entire report is founded, you see, it is not sexuality alone. It is actually the violation of the bodily integrity of the woman, who is entitled to the constitutional guarantee of equality. And that constitutional guarantee of equality requires respect of her dignity in every form. And therefore, everyone who is responsible for ensuring that and preventing any affront to her dignity has to be accountable.
Justice Verma, not just for your report, but for your integrity and for the values that you stood by. You are today a towering personality in our public life. My question to you is, this report, which has inspired so many readers, viewers, it cannot be locked away in a cupboard somewhere. It has to be acted upon. If this report does not become a law quickly, don't you think this will be a lost opportunity for the people of this country, not just for now but for a long time? This can't be one of those reports. What do you want to be done with this report?
Well, I would say that many things which we have said, there can't be two opinions. I can understand for a few, for example, the last one which you said, well, there may be debate, people would consider, fine, they need more time to see whether that is feasible or not. But there are many things which we have said, which have been talked of for quite some time, and there are no two opinions. Now, where is the difficulty in promulgating an ordinance to implement them straight away? Because that's not something which need to await a debate in the parliament and ordinance issuing.
Give me a few basic parts of your report which you think can be immediately taken as part of an ordinance.
Now, for example, the definition of rape.
Yes.
I mean, those parts which really were also I mean, they have been debated and considered in one house of the parliament, all right. I'm just giving you one example. Now, everyone, I don't think anyone will dispute that the rape, which is the last act, is not the beginning point. It is the end point of what starts with, you see, what was earlier called eve teasing, which we have given other
Sexual
names,
harassment.
because etc., etc. Now, those are things. Sexual harassment, the Vishaka judgment came on 13th of August 1997. They have been drafting a bill for such a long time. Now, we have actually redrafted and given suggestions. Go through them, and whatever, because no one can say that nothing in our recommendations will be.
So you want this to be pushed through in the form of an ordinance?
That which does not need any further debate. Let them decide. I don't mind.
In this session of parliament?
See, ordinance can be issued even before the parliament. You see, ordinance
Any time it can be issued tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow. You see, therefore, I would not like to delineate that area or identify particular things, because leave it to them. It is their job. But I don't think anyone can say that nothing in this report can go through unless debated in parliament. So those things which can be made law without being debated in the parliament, why not an ordinance? That will also show the bona fides, and not only that, that will show the credibility of the institutions of governance, and I am sure that will give more assurance to the modern youth, who are the biggest stakeholders. And the mood I see of this modern youth, well, they won't let it be buried like many others.
Well, you're saying so itself. Have you said so directly to the government? Anyone in the government?
Well,
I mean, the Home Minister hasn't called you. Let me come to that, Justice Verma. You've done this principally on your own initiative. You haven't received is it true you haven't received a phone call from the Home Minister?
Well, Mr. Chidambaram talked to me on the 23rd afternoon when he requested me for this.
But he's not the Home Minister.
No, he's not the Home Minister. So obviously, it must have been at the behest of the Prime Minister. But the Union Home Minister, I've had no occasion for any conversation with him. But I must say one thing. After we had given the report, a few days thereafter, I received a call from the Minister of State, R.P.N. Singh, who was, I believe he is still not in Delhi, saying that he would like to come and call on me as soon as he comes back. So maybe he would. But that was after the report was given by me, by the Minister of State.
Why is this?
Well,
why? Since Justice Verma, I can't be indirect by nature. Directly ask, how can work which has been done by you in, I think, a record time on a issue that has gripped the national imagination not been considered important enough for it to be received or responded to directly by the Home Minister? Do you think you have upset a few people? Because you've been very critical also. You're critical of the police. You have slammed the police completely for their lack of engagement with the panel.
When I watched on the TV the two smiling faces, which should have been regretful, I mean, I was extremely upset. The Home Secretary praising the Police Commissioner for doing an excellent job. Now, if in 4 days they apprehended the culprits, that was their job after but why didn't they do something to prevent it? And at any rate, I can understand. Even with the best of efforts, some crimes, some offences will happen. Now, you at least try to express sympathy with the victim and also express regret for having not been able to do that. Actually, in the report we have quoted what I had written in the context of Gujarat in NHRC order, that the state's responsibility is not merely to punish the violations of human rights. The state's responsibility is also to prevent any violations, and those violations not only by the state actors, acts and omissions of the state actors, all right, but even of non-state actors. Why? Because within its territorial jurisdiction, it is the responsibility of the state to protect the human rights of every citizen. And therefore, you see, no one can say that there was no failure on this account.
No, I understand, but is there a, my broader question to you is, even after this incident, you may have seen on television and on the media, number of politicians came out and made statements, Justice Verma, which borders on deep-rooted chauvinism, or I would say at best misogyny. That on the one side. On the other side, a lack of response to you from the Director Generals of Police. Not even a phone call from the Home Minister. Justice Verma, please be frank with me. Is this does reflect a mindset somewhere?
It does.
It does.
You see, if that is, you see, I said the other day, if the DGPs, I saw a news item in the National Daily saying DGPs ignore Verma or Verma panel, whatever. I laughed at it. I said there's no question of ignoring either I or the committee. It is ignoring a crucial issue which is agitating the minds of not only everyone in the country, but even abroad.
Yes.
The kind of global response that we received during this period was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Professors from Oxford, Harvard, this, that, all over the world. The Chief Justice of Canadian Supreme Court, she sent a message. Now, something which was engaging the attention not only of everyone in the country, but the world over. If the DGPs, whose primary responsibility is to maintain law and order, you see, don't find time for this, and someone thinks that they have ignored, well, that goes to show their apathy towards the most crucial issue, and that is why we have said, unless there is that degree of sensitivity which is required for the performance of this task, you see, it is difficult to say that you are fit to occupy that position. So we have said, review all these appointees and let only those be there who are sensitive to the issue. Unless you are sensitive to the issue, how are you going to perform?
I think that's very well said. But I think that, that as I said, Justice Verma, you carry with you a strong moral authority. And you've reflected that in all the work that you have done. Most of which I may say so, having known you personally, is pro bono. I think when you say today that the government should consider an ordinance on parts of what you have recommended on which there is no contention, I think that's very important, and I would like to know the response from the political class.
Yes,
also.
You see, I would be very happy to see if the message is taken. I didn't say it in as many words, but if I remember correctly, I have somewhere in the report mentioned the word promulgation, which is the word normally used in the context of ordinances. You see, not the usual legislation. Ordinances promulgated. I think somewhere, I can't offhand lay my hands on where it is.
You'll be disappointed if it is not.
This was always in my mind, but I didn't want to say it. I only said this: if this committee, with only private resources and mostly assistance of some 15, 16 youngsters, all, you see, giving their time, only labor of love, nothing else. I mean, if for them 30 days, or to be precise 29 days, were enough, then the same period of time for those in authority with all the power and all the infrastructure should be sufficient to do the job.
Well, I think that's a very strong point. Justice Verma, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for speaking to me on Frankly Speaking. It's a total pleasure talking to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.